Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for joining us for another edition of our Why in the Bag.
Yes, sir.
So we had the Zurich Classic this weekend down in New Orleans, and different format, completely
team
different format. Yeah, so some walk-in music, and I mean, fair play to the PGA Tour for trying to change it up. You know, I think a lot of people watch it don't like that stuff. You know, maybe a little more traditional, but
you got to have an open mind.
You got to try. You know,
I agree.
You got to try some things like this and see what sticks, and some things will and some things won't. It's a bit like the match play the other week. You know, like match play is a great format, but maybe falling in the week, you know, a couple of weeks before the Masters wasn't the best play. But doesn't mean it's wrong to try match play.
No,
match play is is a great thing. So I mean, these things will kind of figure it out. But fair play for trying.
I think so. And the European Tour did the what was that called? Special Sixes or something? What was that called?
Yeah, they try some different formats
that,
as well.
That was kind of a cool, different idea. Yep. So you don't have to have every PGA Tour event being exactly the same. Definitely. So I think they did a good job. You
got to be forward thinking in order to sort of grow the awareness and sort of the enjoyment of the game. So we had Scott Piercy and Billy Horschel came out on top.
Yep.
Two great guys by all accounts, and couple of popular winners. I saw a lot of people congratulating them last night on social media. Really stoked for both of those guys are two of the hardest working guys out there.
You were mentioning that, yeah.
Really hard workers. I mean, Billy Horschel is one intense character. I mean, I don't know, for those of you who follow him on social media, you know, when you see his workout routine, he's constantly working. He was one of the first people to go to super speed golf.
I saw both of them using it, right?
Both of them were using super speed, and Horschel was an early adapter to super speed. He was in there. You know, when they first came out on tours, he's had the three sticks in the bag for a long time.
Yeah.
So good for him. Just always trying to get that 1% better. And, you know, he was a FedEx Cup winner a few years ago, and then
he was on fire.
Yeah, fell off a little bit. Maybe hasn't been as consistent as he would like. And like we always say about these things on tour, whether it's Poulter that was good and then lost his way and then came back, and he's been on a great run of form. You know, these guys are humans, and they're normal people as well. They're just great golfers. Sometimes life gets in the way. So great to see both of those guys playing good. Yeah, exactly. You know, Scott Piercy, he's as raw a talent as you'll see out there. I mean,
I think so.
Yeah, he absolutely is. I mean, I've heard stories of how good a ball striker is. I mean, I remember talking to a friend of mine who was playing in a web.com event. Piercy was also playing web.com at that time. It was actually the old Nationwide.
Okay.
And they were noodling about, and one of the guys brought a 1-iron onto the range, and they're all messing about trying to hit this 1-iron. And none of them could kind of hit it. They're all hitting kind of squirrely shots. I mean, they're hitting okay, but it's going to fall in the sky. Piercy walks up and goes, "Give me a shot of that." Takes this 1-iron and just absolutely stripes this thing about 260. Wow. Nice trajectory, as pure as the driven snow. Yeah. So he's a raw talent, and someone who maybe has underachieved a little bit for his talent level. I mean, he's won a few times on tour, but really talented guy.
Let's dive in the bag, shall we?
Let's dive into Horschel's bag first. So Horschel was one, I think, off the back of winning that FedEx Cup. He was hot property, and PXG signed him up pretty early on.
Was he one of the first tour players?
He was one of the first ones that they got on board, and he's probably been one of the guys in there helping them develop the product. Okay. So a little bit of tour feedback. So great player to have on that front. He actually uses a driver that is not it's not currently available. Okay. He uses what's called the XXF, which is the extra forgiving, which is the bigger head, the bigger profile, but the X version of that head. So that's kind of a little bit more of a kind of lower spin model. To me, what that reminded me of when I saw that XF PXG head for the first time, it reminded me of a lot of people say this, it really reminded me of a Ping G driver. Okay. When I first saw the PXG drivers, I looked at it and I thought it looked like a Ping I driver.
I can definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah, does that look what the
even the little alignment lines?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's
very much so.
So this one here is the 0811X.
That's right.
So he's playing something that's
he's playing the XF, which is the slightly bigger head.
but it's
slightly
lower
more
spin.
forgiving, and he's playing the X version, which is the low spin, which is a prototype head. That's not one that's readily available.
So they custom made him a head.
Yeah, they made one for him.
It's the advantage of going with a company like that will make you a club that they won't even sell.
Well, Parson says it himself. You know, PXG is no limits. It's, you know, there is no budget constraint. He'll literally let the engineers go in whichever direction they need to go, and he'll give them the budget to do it. So. That's pretty, and we're going to dive deeper into PXG in the next few weeks ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's one of these things. The Golf Channel did a big kind of feature on them. I didn't know a whole lot about it. I think it was probably a paid sponsorship, to be honest with you. It wasn't an organic interview by any means.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that.
Which is what it is. But I think I got a little more curious about it. Not to say that I want to go and play all of them, but I'm just curious about, you know, they cost obviously a crazy amount more. But there's stuff going on like what you're saying. They're making these kind of one-off drivers, and the standards are maybe different than other companies. It's just a curiosity factor. I think it'll be cool for us to do a video about it, just to say this is how they work, and you know, this is why they cost so much and stuff like that. Compare them to some other club manufacturers, and just, you know, let people know what they're about.
Exactly right. So I mean, obviously Horschel is full 14 clubs with them. So he uses the 0341. He uses the X version. So he uses the lower spin fairway wood. He actually has that in the 3 wood, and he has the standard 0341, the regular one, which is this one.
This is this one.
Yeah, he has that in the 5 wood, which makes sense. You know, the 3 wood
does make sense.
You know, being a little bit more powerful, a little lower spin, and then the 5 wood just to flight it up a little bit higher.
So this one will have a shallower face, you think, than the other one?
CG adjustment. Actually, the internal structure of the head is a little bit different.
Right.
So bringing that CG a little further forward on the X head than the standard one, trying to get some different characteristics.
Probably hits this into par 5s, and the other one just hits off the tee, you would think, for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. The 5 wood is going to be for him something he can, you know, hit in there nice and high from about 255, 260.
Right.
And then the 3 wood is going to be, like you said, a backup off the tee.
Nice
or
if he
doesn't,
club.
if he doesn't need to hit driver off the tee box. So shaft wise, in the driver, he's using the brand new Fujikura Speeder Evolution 4,
which you have here.
Yep. So he's using the 661X. He's been tinkering about with shafts. He's been a bit of a Project X guy for the last little while, but he tested this one. I've actually recently tested this, guys. Fujikura shafts always feel smooth. This Evolution 4 is just so smooth. It doesn't feel harsh, but it's super stable. So it's a kind of a mesh of a few different of the previous editions of the Evolution series. So I think for someone who's looking for a stable, slightly lower ball flight, but doesn't really, want to feel the shaft is overly stiff if they're not a massive loader of it, this is the type of guy I'd feel. Nice tempo, but slightly lower flight.
And it's not a company that I know they're very successful and a lot of people use them. But when you talk about, like the Tensi shaft and all those other ones, I have at least some knowledge of who those might be for. I don't know if that's common, but I just don't really know, their line of shafts as well. Would you say that I wouldn't call them an underdog because they're so well represented on tour and everything, but maybe it's just like a marketing thing. People just aren't aware of, like, everything you said about that. It sounds like a great shaft.
It's a great shaft.
You just think that maybe people just aren't quite as aware of what they have to offer?
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, maybe. I mean, Fujikura for me have kind of, they've crossed over into a little bit, there's a lot of presence from Fujikura in the OEM market. Okay. So a lot of the companies will offer a version of a Fujikura shaft in their OEM lineup. We don't offer any of those OEM shafts. We are only aftermarket. So this is the real premium, 90-ton carbon fiber, material that's in there. The really high-end stuff. Yeah, the good stuff. They're not. Now that's mixed in with some other sort of other materials, but it's the real high-end, high carbon content, low resin, really consistent, great feeling products. So that's a really good one.
One to get out there and test that.
Definitely. Yeah. He's still in his old faithful Project X black shafts in the fairway woods. Okay. So he uses that in the 5 wood and 3 wood and 5 wood. So he's using the 6.5 hazardous black.
Hazardous black. Would they be similar profile to the driver, a little higher launch?
No, actually, if anything than this, though, that should be a little more tip stiff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So just for his swing, he just needs a little less?
Just what he likes, yeah. He was playing for a while there, he was playing the hazardous yellow in the driver, so he obviously likes something that feels a little bit more stable in the fairway woods and something a fraction more active in the driver, so that's just his preference and what fits him best. When it comes to the irons, he is using the 0311Ts.
Yep.
The Gen 2 version, I believe. He's switched over. He's got kind of a bit of an interesting set makeup. He has a 3-iron, no 4-iron, and then 5 through to pitching wedge.
Does he really?
Yeah.
It's really strange.
Yeah,
so it's a yardage gap.
That's his gapping. That's how, maybe he gets a little too close with 3 and 4 and kind of goes, well, there's higher value to me carrying a 5-wood, and then, I can sort of space. Heel of his loft's adjusted.
I was going to say, there's no way that it's a stock 3-iron and a stock 5-iron.
All it means is that he needs 7 irons to get from the longest iron to the shortest iron. He needs 7 clubs to space that out how he wants to.
He just needed more of a difference at the 3 and maybe the 3 and the 4 went too close in yardage. Would you say that's likely why he did it?
Probably, less value to having 2 clubs that went as close as they do. He's a PXG 0311T wedge player.
So not quite the same as this one, but similar.
Yeah, so they're the milled range of wedges. They honestly, I don't think I've
never seen them. No.
They are probably for me the best looking wedges I've ever seen.
Really.
They are so nice. There's almost no offset. The head is a fraction smaller. The one thing I will say is they're so expensive.
They're not cheap.
For a wedge, they are probably, I think for us, they retail about $750 a wedge or something.
Just
like
the
that.
head, though, right? You got
that's for the belt club. That's for the belt club.
Oh, for the belt club.
The full thing. So it's a bargain.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. But for something that if you play a ton of golf, you wear it out in a year or two.
I know.
A lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the bunker and stuff.
Exactly.
It's a luxury item, though, right?
It is that. Well, and certainly for these guys, he's playing them because he doesn't have to worry about the price of them, so he's just playing the best thing for him, and those suit him down to a T. So he's a dynamic gold guy through his irons and his wedges.
Yep.
He's an X100 guy in the irons, and he does what we've talked about a lot recently, is he steps it down a flex in the wedges. So he goes to S400. Yep. So he goes 130 gram in the irons. He goes 132 grams in the wedges, and plays them a little bit softer.
And that is almost every single time we've done this. That's been the case.
It's a real theme, you know. So guys, think about how your wedges transition. You know what I mean? There's some people watching might go, you know what? For my handicap level, I don't think it makes a difference to me. Check it out.
Yeah.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
You know, it's you just never know unless you try these things and see if it's something that might work for you.
Logically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no way you swing as fast with a 50-degree wedge than a 6-iron.
The objective's different, isn't it? You know, when you're looking at your hybrids and irons, and you're maybe thinking of being a bit more explosive and having a bit more speed, you're not looking for that. It's control and accuracy and consistency with the wedges that are more important. So when you're up and down the grip and you're changing the length of the club, weight is good. You're not making a full-blooded swing, so you're not going to load the shaft the same way, so a little bit softer flex can give you more feel back. So very important to kind of think about these things, and when people do the full bag fit with us, you know, we are thinking how we transition through that bag. So really, really important. Billy's wedges are 52, 56, 60. He's 10 degrees of bounce in the gap wedge, 10 in the sand wedge, and 7, I believe, in the 60-degree wedge.
And that's a pretty low bounce 60, or is that mid?
I would call that mid. Yeah,
and
7, 8 degrees is mid.
Suits him based on where he goes.
That's it. Right. Yeah, exactly. And his putter, I think we have one around somewhere, or we've got one over in the putting green. We've got the PXG Mustang.
Right.
So there's 2 different versions of the Mustang. You've got the version that's called the Mustang S with the double bend neck, and then he uses the standard Mustang, which has a little plumber's neck on it that's adjustable. You can move the loft and lie. Cool. Really nice looking little putter. 2 little kind of wings on the end for a little extra stability.
And it suits kind of the way that all these clubs, like their clubs, you know, to their credit, they do. It's like a branding thing. I mean, for me, what I do on a daily basis is keeping my clients' brands consistent. I mean, talk about a company that does, honestly, a very good job with that. You may not love the way it looks, but they do, you know, the irons blend nicely into the wedges and the putter. I mean, it looks nice.
You know what? People have different opinions in PXG, and you know, for whatever you think of them. I really take my hat off them for one thing. They have made an impact in the market that a global giant like Nike struggles to do.
That's true.
In 20 years on tour, which is basically what they had, maybe 18, 20 years Nike were out there, they were kind of unable to produce a product line that was really, you know, good, accepted, right, at the average player's level and on tour.
Right.
PXG have existed for 5 minutes and have that. So they've got clubs that can be played by the average golfer, a club that can be played on tour.
Yeah.
I think they've really done well in a short space of time. So
they also don't claim to be anything other than who they are. They know they're expensive.
I know.
They don't apologize for it. They say, hey,
they certainly don't. They do the opposite.
Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, whether you like them or hate them, they're pretty honest about kind of how they develop their clubs, and it's not going to be for everyone. But it's interesting what you say, though. For them to get that many tour players and amateur players, they're doing something right.
Well, they look at you know, at PGA Tour, they've maybe invested as much, or if not more, maybe not the money that they've invested, but the amount of tour staff on the LPGA Tour is extensive.
There's a lot of ladies playing it.
A lot of ladies playing it,
and good like top players too.
For sure. Yeah. Lydia Ko she just won yesterday, didn't she? And,
you know, big
she's
one, right?
PXG player. So you know, fair play to PXG for that, and kind of you know, really investing into both sides of it.
It's also something just totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of companies that compete with each other. Yes, they're competing, but it's kind of like car companies. You take, this is the super high end.
Right.
Not necessarily a direct competitor because it's for a small market, but another option.
Definitely.
So let's look at Scott's.
Scott Piercy, Titleist guy, has been for forever, for as long as certainly I've been aware of Scott Piercy. He's been playing some Titleist clubs. So he's using the 917 D2.
Yep,
and
it's this guy here.
Yep, 8.5. Great win for our friends up at Accra. So he had an Accra shaft.
Oh, he did?
Driver,
good. Very nice.
which was great to see.
Yep.
Absolutely delighted for the boys. I mean, there's some real good play going on this year on tour with Accra shafts.
I mean, those shafts are clearly extremely good.
They are.
Tony Finau, and who else was using the
Justin Rose just put the RPG. Woodland has been playing it. Obviously, Ryan Palmer has been playing Accra forever. I mean, there's loads and loads of guys playing Accra out there.
That's great. I mean, for relatively a small company, I guess, to be that present on tour is a big deal.
It's brilliant. It's great to see. So using the larger headed Titleist driver, he is using a 16.5 degree 917 F2.
That's this one right here.
Yep. So the slightly larger headed profile. So obviously, you know, the heads that he's going for, he's looking for the slightly larger heads. So
just interesting because he strikes it really well.
Yeah,
but it's probably he just doesn't need the ball flight lowering that the deeper face club has, I guess. But these are good looking.
It's a great looking wood,
woods.
isn't it? And,
really
and
nice.
actually, they're great performing as well. I'm so impressed with Titleist fairway woods and hybrids. I actually put them up there as good as anyone in them.
Really?
Yeah, literally anyone.
That's great.
Yeah, they have the two versions of the hybrid as well, the H1 and the H2, and
he plays the H1.
Yeah, Piercy uses the H1, but it's not even this year's model of H1.
It's not.
It was last year's. Yeah, the 816. Current one is the 818. He uses the 816.
Right.
And actually, it's got a bit of an older shaft in it as well. Another Fujikura product. It's called the Fujikura Fuel, which was out probably about maybe 3-4 years ago. So he is a slightly older. So that's obviously a favourite for him that he's had in the bag for a long time.
Something he must just have good results with, and thought, I don't need to change.
That's it. And you know, he comes across to me as someone who doesn't change a lot anyway. You know, it seems like
good segue into his irons because he's playing some old stuff in the irons.
Definitely. Right? I mean, he's using a AP2 4-iron.
Yep.
So he's obviously looking for the forgiveness. And again, another thing that we've seen is a real trend of guys, you know, whatever the longest iron is, maybe having it, you know, a little bit more forgiving.
Yep.
A transitional club that transitions into maybe the blade or the smaller head. But they're still looking for forgiveness and speed and all that sort of thing.
Rory was doing that, wasn't he? Rory had the bigger profile TaylorMade in his longest iron.
Yeah, Phil Mickelson had the Epic Pro 4-iron in his bag. So
even Tiger's got a driving iron.
Yep.
Everyone's doing it.
I know, that's it. So it kind of works in trends like that type of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One thing that was super interesting, and I know probably anyone who pays attention to the kind of Golf WRX What's in the Bag or other companies who do it, the amount of lead tape Scott Piercy had in the back of his clubs.
Put a picture of that up right now.
perfect. So, I mean, it is obviously just a head weight thing for him, a feel thing, something that allows him to feel where the club is. He obviously loves to be very head heavy. I mean, I'd love to see what his swing weights are.
Must be interesting, right?
This isn't like a strip of lead tape. This is like
tons.
Layers of lead tape
on there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to see those swing weights. It just reminds me of such an old school player.
Yeah.
That's just what would happen in the old school. I mean, even looking at he obviously is quite an old school mindset. Even looking at the forward that he had.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the CG cartridge, the SureFit cartridge in the wood, and he still had lead tape on it.
So he had lead tape on this too.
He had lead tape in his forward.
That's funny.
Even though you can actually adjust the cartridge on the wood. So
he just wants lead tape on his clubs.
He just loves some lead tape. Old school. So pretty cool to see from him. Shaft wise, he uses the Project X Load Zone 6.5.
Oh, he does. Okay.
Yeah, yep, uses that. So he's got that in his AP2 716 last year's version, and he's got that also in his 680 MBs.
And how old of an iron set is that?
Oh, that's a good few years old, but it's just one of those irons that
just a classic blade.
It's just that's what it is. Yep. It's just a classic blade. Quite a tall muscle on that one.
Yep.
So again, CG placement exactly where the player needs it. So he is your absolute standard ball striker that gravitates towards that. So
not a tinkerer, doesn't want the latest stuff.
I wouldn't think so. No, I'd imagine looking at how old those irons looked and some of the pictures I saw, looks like he's had them for a long time.
That's cool.
Yeah. Volky guy in the irons, so he cuts his irons off at 9 iron.
Yep.
And he goes Volky 46, 53, 57, 63, I believe.
63, wow.
63, yeah.
So that's kind of a green side club for him.
Yep. Uses that as kind of round the green, get out of jail free. He has to kind of really lob one up there.
That's different. Not a lot of guys, Phil I know has one, but not a ton of guys with a 60 plus.
No, definitely not too many players playing with more than 60 degrees, which is interesting. So he obviously he's got his own configuration for his wedges, and that kind of works out best for him. He's using similar to Horschel, using S400s in those.
Yep.
So
same story there, probably. Story.
Very interesting, isn't it?
It really. I mean, that's of the trends. I know we haven't done like 100 of these yet. We've probably done 5, 6, 7 of these.
Yeah.
But I swear every single one of them do the same thing with the shafts.
They transition into it.
Yeah.
So really, really cool. He uses a Scotty Cameron putter just to be a full Titleist staffer through the bag. Prototype version is called a T2.
Probably had that for a long time too.
I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has. Standard stuff. So
both playing the Pro V1s, but Horschel's got the X.
He's
got the X.
He's got the X, and Piercy's got the standard Pro V,
which again kind of fits his style of play. Probably likes a little bit more spin.
Yeah, certainly. It certainly seems that way from the heads he's gravitating towards. I would imagine, if I'm trying to figure out that type of player, probably someone who leans the shaft a little bit on it, and compresses it really, really nicely. Yeah, so he needs a little bit more spin in order to sort of kick that low launching ball flight up.
Right.
Looking at using a D2 head, a 4 wood rather than a 3 wood. All those LZ shafts in the irons, all those sorts of things. They're kind of giveaways as to the type of player that he is.
He's got an interesting bag. I mean, I think it may not be the most interesting from like a new product standpoint. Probably as a club retailer, you look at like I want someone to win with the latest stuff to show how good it is. But he's got sort of shafts you wouldn't quite expect the LZ. Yeah. He's got really old blades, but he's using kind of a modern design shaft. Sort of an interesting kind of give and take there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's just great to dig into these guys' bags and start to see maybe, like we're doing, we try and figure out why they're using those types of clubs, what type of preferences they have as players. And I think when you look at trends in the bag, you can really start to pick them apart. And, and we do that with our customers in here. We do the initial assessment of their bag, and okay, you've got this, you've got that, you've got this. As soon as I see maybe a 5 or 7 wood in there, go, okay, so generally a low ball hitter, you're trying to get the ball up in there. Yep, how did you know that? Well, just it's giveaways.
You can kind of make that assumption, yeah.
Exactly, you can start to figure it out. So, cool stuff.
Yeah, this is great.
Yep. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. I think we mentioned we think that the tour is in Quail Hollow this
Pretty
week.
sure it's Quail Hollow and then the players.
Carolinas.
So two Tiger potential wins there. Maybe we'll get a Tiger. What's in the bag?
Hoping,
who knows?
We're hoping. Yeah,
it would be fun.
We'll see. Either way, it's going to be great to dig into the bags. We're going to change the date we think of the wine in the bag.
Yeah, we should mention that. Yeah. So you're seeing this on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've been doing lately is we've been meeting on Mondays on the closed TXG shop day. Ian's obviously got a pretty busy schedule, so do I. So we're probably going to play around a little bit with when we come to you with that.
Yeah.
Will it be every single week? Probably not.
We'll try.
We'll try our best. Will it always be early in the week? Maybe not. But yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it as often as we can.
Yeah.
But you may see it like this on a Wednesday, for example, or later in the week. But it's a really good segment. I think people like this. We like doing it.
We enjoy doing it. Yeah,
it's fun and it seems to be different. I mean, we may skip a week if the same person wins twice, but for the most part, we should. There's cool stuff every week to go through.
Definitely. Good. Excellent, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back with you soon.